Hello, cruisers. Eric coming to you once again from my messy bedroom here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Today, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite cruise topics, and that is passports, why you should get one, and an easy method to help you remember to renew it. I took my first cruise on the Norwegian Majesty back in December of 2004. It was a round trip cruise out of Charleston, South Carolina. We went to Cozumel, the Caymans, and Key West. And back then, you could do a cruise as long as it was closed loop. That means it starts and ends in the United States. If you had a birth certificate and a driver's license, you didn't need a passport. And that's what I did on that particular cruise. But back then, the government said they were going to change the rules and you would need a passport regardless of if it was closed loop or not. Fast forward 18 years and they still haven't changed the rules. You can still do a closed loop cruise using just birth certificate and ID. But I would strongly recommend that you don't do it. And I'll tell you why. Birth certificate and driver's license is great as long as nothing happens, as long as the Kraken doesn't strike and cause mayhem. For example, a year ago, the Norwegian Escape ran aground in the Dominican Republic and they had to cancel the cruise and send everyone home. NCL took everybody, put them on planes, and flew them to Orlando because the cruise had originated in Port Canaveral. And all of that was easy peasy for the people who had passports. For the people who had driver's license and birth certificate, they had to wait. It was a bunch of red tape. It was a real pain in the butt. And yeah, they were all sitting there in the Dominican Republic thinking to themselves, gee, I wish I had a passport. Another reason would be just individual things might happen. For example, I was on a cruise this past December, also on the Escape, as coincidence would have it, and I received a message that my elderly mother had taken a fall and was in the hospital. She's okay, by the way. But there was a possibility there for a few hours where I might need to leave the cruise and go home. Now, if I had birth certificate and driver's license, I'm not even sure I would have been able to leave the cruise and go home. But because I had a passport, I would have had to just go to guest services, tell them I have an emergency at home, I need to go home. They would say, oh, sorry about that. They would have arranged for the local authorities. In this case, it would have been Tortola in the British Virgin Islands to get my passport stamped to enter that country legally, then go to the airport, fly home to Charlotte. When I got to Charlotte, I would have had passport when I go through customs and immigrations at the international terminal, no problem. If I had only birth certificate and driver's license, I would have been in a bad way. So get a passport. Another reason to get a passport is it's simply a second form of ID. Some banking transactions still require two forms of ID. In fact, when I travel domestically, I always take my passport. Why would I do that? Well, in case I lose my driver's license. For example, when I go to Vegas, I get to the hotel and I put my wallet, with the exception of one credit card and my driver's license, into the safe. I also take out whatever cash I'm going to use for that evening. I put the cash, the driver's license, and the one credit card in my little travel wallet that I keep in my pocket when I go on trips and on cruises. And the rest of my credit cards and most of my cash is in the safe, along with the passport. Now let's say I get pickpocketed when I'm in Vegas. So now one credit card's lost, that's one phone call. Small amount of cash, whatever cash I had for the evening, that's gone and you'll never get that back. And the driver's license is gone. Now I can get a new driver's license when I get back to North Carolina, but how am I going to get past the TSA to get on the plane to come home? Now I'm sure there was ways to deal with that, but if your passport's safe in your hotel room, you just pull out your passport, you go to get on the plane to come home, you show them your passport, fly home, get past TSA, no problem. And yes, the TSA doesn't care if you're using a passport to show ID to them if you're only flying domestically. They couldn't care less. In fact, they probably prefer a passport, if the truth be told. Now I'll talk to you about a simple method to help you remember to renew your passport when the time comes. Open up your passport, find the expiration date. It could be as far as 10 years out because when it's brand new, it's good for 10 years. Go into your Google Calendar or your iCalendar and back up 1 year prior to the expiration date. And put into calendar, passport expires in 1 year. But don't make it one little small thing that you might miss. Make it an event that lasts like 3 or 4 weeks so it's this big block on your calendar. Because these things, you can't get them renewed in an afternoon like you can a driver's license. These things, they can take months to come back to you from the State Department. 2 or 3 months I'm hearing right now. So by having a year notice and by putting this big block thing on your calendar so you can't miss it, it will remind you, oh, my passport's going to expire in a year. You can then look at your travel plans, and keep in mind, you can't get on most cruises if your passport has less than 6 months on it, and there's a lot of countries that won't let you in if your passport has less than 6 months on it. So you can look at your travel schedule, you've got a year notice, and even if it's right then that year, you can send it off. Yeah, you can send it early to get renewed, they don't care. So that's just a simple method to help you remember to do it and to schedule it around your travel plans. That's all for today, and until we meet again, may you avoid the Kraken and have fair winds and following seas.